Would you fight a judge to save your kid's birthday party if your ex tried to cancel it out of pure spite? I never thought I would be the kind of father who had to schedule joy, but here I am, sitting at my kitchen table with a custody calendar in one hand and a party planning checklist in the other, trying to figure out how to celebrate my son without starting World War III. My name is Liam Foster. I am 34 years old, and I have been divorced from my ex-wife Isabella Martinez for 3 years now. We share custody of our 7-year-old son Mason on an alternating weekend schedule, and for the most part, it works. Or at least, it worked until Isabella started using that schedule like a weapon whenever she felt like punishing me for moving on with my life. The whole mess started about 5 days ago when I confirmed the booking for Mason's 8th birthday party at the Discovery Science Museum, a place he had been begging to visit for months. I had saved up $1,200 for the venue rental, the guided experiments, the pizza, the cake, everything a little boy could want for his special day. Mason had been counting down the days since I told him about it 3 weeks ago, his face lighting up every time he talked about showing his friends the volcano demonstration and the giant bubble station. I should have known something was wrong when Isabella texted me at 11 at night, her message appearing on my phone screen like a grenade with the pin already pulled. "We need to talk about Mason's birthday," the text read. "Call me tomorrow morning." I stared at that message for a solid 5 minutes, my stomach already twisting into knots. In our 3 years of divorce, Isabella had never wanted to talk about Mason's birthday before. She had missed his 6th birthday entirely last year, claiming she had a work emergency that turned out to be a weekend trip to wine country with her boyfriend Marcus, a detail I only discovered through a mutual friend's Instagram post. Mason had asked about his mom 3 times that day, and each time I had to come up with another excuse for why she was not there to see him blow out his candles. But this year was different, apparently. This year, Isabella suddenly cared very much about Mason's birthday, or more accurately, about the date I had chosen for his party. I called her the next morning while Mason was at school, trying to keep my voice neutral and cooperative. Isabella answered on the second ring, her tone already sharp and accusatory. "Daniel," she said, using my middle name the way she always did when she was gearing up for a fight. "Did you even look at the custody calendar before you scheduled Mason's party?" I took a deep breath, reminding myself that engaging with her anger never ended well. "I scheduled it on the 23rd, Isabella. It is the Saturday closest to his actual birthday, which is the 25th. All his friends can make it, the venue had availability, and I paid the deposit 2 weeks ago." "The 23rd is my weekend," she said, her voice rising. "You cannot just take my time with Mason because you want to throw a party. That is a violation of our custody agreement." I felt my jaw clench. "Isabella, his birthday is literally 2 days after your weekend ends. I am not trying to take your time, I am trying to celebrate our son. You are welcome to come to the party if you want. I invited you in the email I sent you 3 weeks ago." There was a long pause on the other end of the line, the kind of silence that meant Isabella was regrouping, looking for a new angle of attack. "I did not see any email," she said finally, which was absolutely a lie because I had gotten a red receipt. "And that is not the point. The point is that you scheduled a major event on my custody time without consulting me. You need to cancel it and reschedule for one of your weekends." I stood up from my chair, pacing across my small kitchen. "Isabella, the venue is paid for. It is non-refundable. I have already sent invitations to 15 kids. Mason has been talking about this party for weeks. I cannot just cancel it." "Then you should have thought about that before you violated the custody order," she said, her voice cold now. "If you go through with this party on my weekend, I will have no choice but to contact my lawyer and file a motion for contempt." She hung up before I could respond, leaving me standing in my kitchen with my phone pressed to my ear and my heart pounding in my chest. That was 4 days ago, and the situation had only gotten worse since then. Isabella started texting me constantly, sometimes 5 or 6 messages in a row, each one more threatening than the last. She sent me screenshots of the custody agreement with the weekend dates highlighted in yellow. She forwarded me emails from her lawyer, a man named Richard Caldwell who apparently specialized in fathers who violated custody orders, which was how Isabella phrased it. She even called my mother, my 62-year-old mother who had nothing to do with any of this, and spent 20 minutes complaining about how I was trying to alienate Mason from her. My girlfriend Emma Clark, who I had been dating for about 8 months, watched the whole thing unfold with a mixture of sympathy and frustration. Emma was the reason for all of this, really, or at least the catalyst. Isabella had been mostly civil until Emma came into the picture, until Mason started mentioning Emma's name when he came home from weekends at my place, until it became clear that my son actually liked spending time with my new girlfriend. Emma was wonderful with Mason. She played video games with him, helped him with his homework, taught him how to make chocolate chip pancakes on Sunday mornings. She never tried to replace his mother, never overstepped, just treated him with kindness and respect and genuine affection. And Isabella absolutely hated her for it. "I think she is scared," Emma said one night as we sat on my couch after Mason had gone to bed. "She is scared that Mason loves me, which means she is scared of losing control over you." "She does not control me," I said, but even as the words left my mouth, I knew they were not entirely true. Isabella did control me, in 1,000 small ways, through Mason. She controlled when I could talk to him on her custody days, whether he could attend my family's holiday gatherings, what activities I could sign him up for. And now she was trying to control his birthday party. The worst part was not even the threats or the angry texts or the lawyer emails. The worst part was watching Mason's excitement slowly turn to confusion and worry as he picked up on the tension between his parents. "Daddy, is Mommy coming to my party?" He asked me 3 nights before the event, his small face serious in a way that made my heart ache. "I hope so, buddy," I told him, which was only partially true. "I hope so." "Is she mad about something?" he asked, and I realized he had probably overheard one of my phone conversations with Isabella or noticed the stress I was carrying around like a heavy backpack. "Grown-up stuff," I said, pulling him into a hug. "Nothing for you to worry about. Your party is going to be amazing." But he was worried, I could see it in his eyes, and I hated Isabella for putting that worry there, for taking what should have been pure joy and excitement and tainting it with her need to punish me. 2 days before the party, things escalated in a way I had not anticipated. Isabella filed an emergency motion with the family court, requesting that the judge issue an immediate order preventing me from taking Mason on the 23rd and imposing sanctions for my willful violation of the custody agreement. She also requested that the court consider modifying custody altogether, claiming that my pattern of disregarding her parental rights demonstrated that I was not capable of co-parenting effectively. I found out about the motion when my own lawyer, a patient woman named Sarah Bennett who had represented me through the divorce, called me at work. Her voice was calm but serious, the tone of someone delivering bad news with professional courtesy. "Liam, I need you to not panic," she said, which of course made me immediately panic. "Isabella has filed an emergency motion. I am emailing you the documents now, but the short version is that she wants the court to stop the party and potentially change the custody arrangement." I sat down at my desk, my legs suddenly unsteady. "Can she do that? Can she actually stop Mason's birthday party through the court?" Sarah hesitated, which was never a good sign. "The emergency hearing is scheduled for tomorrow afternoon, the day before the party. The judge could technically issue a temporary order preventing you from having Mason that weekend until a full hearing can be held. It is unlikely, but it is possible." "This is insane," I said, my voice rising despite my effort to stay calm. "This is his birthday party, Sarah. His birthday. What kind of mother tries to cancel her kid's birthday party out of spite?" "I understand your frustration," Sarah said, "and I agree that Isabella's actions seem punitive rather than protective. But we need to focus on the hearing tomorrow. I need you to bring any documentation you have about the party planning, when you sent the invitation to Isabella, any communications between you two about Mason's birthday. Also, and this is important, I need you to think about whether Isabella has a history of missing or minimizing Mason's birthday in the past." "She missed it completely last year," I said immediately. "She was supposed to have him that weekend and she dropped him off at my place the night before his birthday, said she had a work emergency. Turns out she went to Napa Valley with her boyfriend. Can you prove that?" Sarah asked. I thought about it for a moment. "Our friend Melissa Jordan posted photos on Instagram. I can probably find them." "Find them," Sarah said. "And anything else that shows a pattern of Isabella not prioritizing Mason's birthday or special events. We need to show the judge that your scheduling of this party was reasonable under the circumstances and that Isabella's objection is not really about the custody calendar, it is about control. After I hung up with Sarah, I spent 2 hours going through my phone and computer, looking for evidence. I found the Instagram posts from Melissa showing Isabella and Marcus at a winery, their faces flushed with wine and happiness while I was at home with Mason, explaining why his mother was not there for his 6th birthday. I found text messages from the week before last year's birthday where Isabella had confirmed she would bring Mason to my place for his party, only to cancel at the last minute with vague excuses about work. I found the invitation I had sent her for this year's party, dated 3 weeks ago, with the read receipt showing she had opened it the same day. But the most damning evidence came from an unexpected source, a mutual friend named Christopher Hayes who had stayed neutral through most of the divorce drama but who apparently had reached his limit with Isabella's behavior. Christopher called me the night before the court hearing, his voice apologetic but determined. "Liam, I need to tell you something, and I am sorry I did not say it sooner. Isabella is not planning to spend Mason's birthday weekend with him anyway." I froze, my phone pressed to my ear. "What do you mean?" "She made a reservation at Rosewood, that fancy steakhouse downtown, for Saturday night at 8. Dinner for 2. She told me about it last week, said she and Marcus were celebrating his promotion. When I asked her about it being Mason's birthday weekend, she just laughed and said you would probably end up with him anyway because you are so obsessed with being the perfect father." Christopher's words landed like a physical blow. "She booked a dinner reservation? On Mason's birthday weekend?" "I did not think much of it at the time," Christopher said, and he sounded genuinely sorry. "I thought maybe she was planning to drop Mason off with you early so she could go out. But then I heard through Melissa about the court motion and the threats, and I realized what she was doing. She is not trying to spend time with Mason. She is trying to hurt you. Can you testify to that?" I asked. "Can you tell my lawyer what you just told me?" There was a pause, and I could hear Christopher wrestling with the decision. "Isabella is going to hate me. She is trying to ruin our son's birthday party out of spite," I said, my voice harder than I intended. "Mason deserves better than this." "You are right," Christopher said finally. "Send me your lawyer's contact information. I will tell her everything." The emergency hearing the next day was one of the most surreal experiences of my life. I sat at a table next to Sarah in a small courtroom, watching Isabella sit across from us with her lawyer Richard, her face arranged in an expression of wounded dignity. She was wearing a conservative navy dress and pearl earrings, her hair pulled back in a neat bun, every inch the concerned mother fighting for her rights. The judge, an older man named Judge William Coleman, listened as Richard presented Isabella's case. He talked about the sanctity of custody agreements, about the importance of both parents respecting court-ordered parenting time, about how my unilateral decision to schedule a party on Isabella's weekend demonstrated a pattern of disregard for her role as Mason's mother. Throughout the entire presentation, Isabella dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, playing the role of the victim perfectly. I felt sick watching her, knowing that everything coming out of Richard's mouth was a calculated performance, that Isabella did not actually care about spending Mason's birthday with him, she just cared about winning. Then it was Sarah's turn, and she methodically dismantled Isabella's case piece by piece. She presented the invitation I had sent 3 weeks prior, showing that Isabella had been given ample notice and opportunity to object. She presented the text messages from last year showing Isabella's last-minute cancellation of Mason's 6th birthday. She presented Melissa's Instagram post showing Isabella in Napa Valley while Mason was asking where his mother was. And then, the final blow, she presented Christopher's affidavit detailing Isabella's reservation at Rosewood for Saturday night, the same night as Mason's birthday party. "Your Honor," Sarah said, her voice clear and firm, "this motion is not about protecting Ms. Martinez's custody time. She has demonstrated repeatedly that she does not prioritize her son's birthday, and the evidence shows she was not planning to spend this coming weekend with Mason anyway. This motion is about punishing Mr. Foster for moving on with his life and for having a girlfriend who has developed a positive relationship with Mason. Ms. Martinez is using the custody agreement as a weapon, and the real victim in this situation is their 7-year-old son, who just wants to have a birthday party with his friends." Judge Coleman looked at Isabella for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "Ms. Martinez, is it true that you have a dinner reservation for Saturday evening at Rosewood?" Isabella's face went pale, then red. That is, Marcus made that reservation, and I was going to cancel it, obviously, once I realized there was a conflict. When did you realize there was a conflict? The judge asked. Isabella hesitated, her mouth opening and closing. When Liam told me about the party. And when was that? Another hesitation. 3 weeks ago. And you did not cancel the reservation in those 3 weeks? Judge Coleman's voice was mild, but there was steel underneath it. I forgot, Isabella said weakly. The judge leaned back in his chair, his hands folded on the desk in front of him. I am denying the emergency motion. Mr. Foster may proceed with the birthday party as planned. However, I am troubled by the pattern of behavior I am seeing here from both parties, though primarily from Ms. Martinez. I am ordering both parties to attend a case management conference in 30 days to discuss a modification of the custody agreement to include specific provisions for holidays and birthdays, with shared decision-making authority. In the meantime, Ms. Martinez, you will not interfere with the birthday party, and Mr. Foster, you will ensure that Ms. Martinez is given proper notice and opportunity to participate in future events. He banged his gavel, and just like that, it was over. Isabella stood up so quickly her chair scraped loudly against the floor, and she walked out of the courtroom without looking at me, Richard hurrying after her with his briefcase. I sat there for a moment, feeling like I had just run a marathon, my heart pounding and my hands shaking slightly. Sarah put a hand on my shoulder. You can have the party, she said, smiling. Mason can have his birthday. I nodded, unable to speak around the sudden lump in my throat. The party itself, 2 days later, was everything I had hoped it would be. Mason walked into the Discovery Science Museum with his eyes wide and his mouth hanging open, taking in the enormous lobby with its pendulum installation and the replica of the solar system hanging from the ceiling. His 14 friends arrived in waves, each one adding to the chaos and excitement, their voices echoing off the high ceilings as they ran from exhibit to exhibit. Emma had come early to help set up, and she stood next to me now as we watched Mason and his friends gather around the volcano demonstration, their faces wrapped with attention as the museum educator explained how tectonic plates worked. Mason kept turning around to look at me, his smile so big it looked like it might split his face in half, and each time our eyes met he would give me a thumbs up. This was worth it, Emma said quietly, squeezing my hand. All the stress, all the court drama, this moment right here was worth it. She was right. Watching Mason blow out the candles on his cake, surrounded by his friends and my family and the people who genuinely loved him, I knew we had done the right thing. Isabella had not shown up, which surprised exactly no one. She had sent a text message that morning saying she was not feeling well, which was probably code for she could not face the people who knew the truth about her dinner reservation and her court performance. But Mason did not seem to notice his mother's absence, or if he did, he was too busy having the time of his life to care. He ran from station to station, creating static electricity with the Van de Graaff generator, making giant bubbles in the bubble lab, launching rockets in the physics area. His laughter filled the space, pure and uncomplicated and joyful. At the end of the party, as parents started arriving to pick up their kids, Mason hugged me around the waist, his face pressed into my stomach. Best birthday ever, Daddy, he said, his voice muffled by my shirt. Thank you. I looked down at him, this little person who was half me and half Isabella but 100% himself, and I felt something shift in my chest. For 3 years I had been walking on eggshells around my ex-wife, trying to keep the peace, trying to protect Mason from the worst of our conflict. But in trying to keep the peace, I had been teaching Mason that his mother's unreasonable behavior was acceptable, that her manipulation was normal, that love came with conditions and weapons. No more, I thought. No more letting Isabella use our son as a tool to hurt me. No more sacrificing Mason's happiness to avoid a fight. The case management conference happened 3 weeks later, and this time I came prepared. Sarah had helped me document every instance over the past 3 years where Isabella had used the custody agreement to punish me or control me, every birthday or holiday she had minimized or missed, every time she had changed plans at the last minute or withheld information about Mason's school or medical appointments. The conference was held in a mediation room with a court-appointed mediator, a woman named Patricia Murray who had a reputation for not tolerating manipulation or game-playing. Isabella arrived with Richard, her face set in hard lines, but I could see the nervousness underneath her anger. Patricia reviewed all the documentation, asked pointed questions of both of us, and then delivered her recommendation with blunt efficiency. She recommended that the custody agreement be modified to include joint decision-making authority for all major events including birthdays, holidays, school activities, and medical decisions. She recommended that make-up time be allowed when one parent missed their scheduled custody time due to work or other commitments, and that this make-up time be coordinated in advance rather than held over the other parent's head as a bargaining chip. And most importantly, she recommended that both parents be required to take a co-parenting class focused on putting the child's needs first and communicating without hostility. Judge Coleman adopted Patricia's recommendations in full, and the modified custody order was issued 2 weeks later. Isabella was furious, I heard through mutual friends, ranting about how I had turned the court against her and made her look like a bad mother. But the truth was, she had done that all by herself. I had just stopped enabling her behavior and started standing up for my son. It has been 6 months since Mason's 8th birthday party, and our new custody arrangement is working better than I ever hoped. Isabella still has her difficult moments, times when she tries to flex control or make things harder than they need to be, but the court order gives me the structure and authority to push back without feeling like I am violating some unspoken rule. More importantly, Mason seems happier. He does not ask as many worried questions about whether his parents are mad at each other. He does not tiptoe around mentioning Emma when he talks to his mother. He is just a kid, enjoying his childhood, secure in the knowledge that both his parents love him even if they cannot love each other. Emma and I are still together, and she continues to be a steady, positive presence in both my life and Mason's. She never pushed me to fight with Isabella or try to insert herself into the co-parenting drama, but she also never let me minimize what was happening or pretend it was normal. She held up a mirror and made me see that the way Isabella was treating me, treating us, treating Mason, was not okay. As for Isabella, I honestly do not know if she has learned anything from the experience. I hope she has, for Mason's sake, but I am not holding my breath. What I do know is that I learned something crucial during those weeks leading up to Mason's 8th birthday. I learned that protecting my son sometimes means fighting for him, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it is expensive, even when it means going to court and airing our dirty laundry in front of a judge. I learned that love is not the same as peace, and that sometimes the most loving thing you can do as a parent is refuse to let the other parent use your child as a weapon. I learned that Mason is watching how I handle conflict, how I stand up for what is right, how I respond when someone tries to manipulate or control me. And I want him to learn that you do not have to accept treatment that is wrong just because it comes from someone who is supposed to love you. Mason's 9th birthday is coming up in a few months, and we have already started planning. This time, Isabella and I had a civil conversation about dates and scheduling, following the new custody order's requirement for joint decision-making. She is planning to be there, or so she says, and I genuinely hope she follows through. But if she does not, Mason will still have a wonderful birthday, surrounded by people who love him unconditionally. And if she tries to turn it into another power play, another attempt to punish me through our son, well, I have Sarah on speed dial and a filing cabinet full of documentation. I am not the same person I was a year ago, walking on eggshells and trying to appease an ex-wife who could not be appeased. I am a father who has learned to fight for his child, and that is a lesson I will carry forward for the rest of my life. The best part, the part that makes all the stress and legal fees and sleepless nights worth it, is watching Mason thrive. He just made the honor roll at school. He joined the science club, inspired by his birthday party at the museum. He talks about wanting to be an engineer when he grows up, or maybe a volcanologist, or maybe both. His eyes light up when he talks about the future, and there is no shadow of worry or fear in them. That is what this was all about, in the end. Not winning against Isabella or proving a point or getting revenge. It was about making sure my son knew that his birthday mattered, that his happiness mattered, that he mattered more than any custody calendar or legal agreement or adult ego. And every time Mason smiles that big, unreserved smile of his, the one that says he feels safe and loved and free to just be a kid, I know we made the right choice. I know that standing up to Isabella, going to court, refusing to cancel that party, all of it was worth it. Because at the end of the day, that is what being a parent means. It means fighting for your child even when the fight is hard, even when it would be easier to give in, even when the person you are fighting is someone you once loved. It means teaching your child through your actions that they are worth fighting for, that their joy is worth protecting, that they deserve to be celebrated. Mason's 8th birthday party was not just about science experiments and cake and presents. It was about showing him that when something matters, you do not back down. You stand your ground, you gather your evidence, you get good people in your corner, and you fight. And sometimes, if you are very lucky, you win. Not just in court, but in the ways that really matter. In your child's laughter, in their confidence, in their knowledge that they are loved fiercely and unconditionally by at least one parent who will always, always put them first. That is the gift I gave Mason on his 8th birthday, even more valuable than the party itself. The gift of knowing that his father would move heaven and earth to make sure he felt celebrated and loved. And that is a gift that will last long after the memories of volcanoes and bubbles have faded, a gift that will shape the man he becomes. I would do it all again in a heartbeat, every stressful moment, every angry text, every dollar spent on lawyers, because my son is worth it. He was always worth it. And now he knows it too.